Okay, welcome everybody. Is that working? Can everybody hear me through the speakers, or are you just listening to my... No, you can hear me through the speakers, right? There we go. Hello. Welcome all to SVPCA 2018 in Manchester. Give yourselves a round of applause for coming. There you go. Well done, you clever people. So, much like I remember Richard Butler saying exactly this time last year, I haven't had a lot of time to actually think about what I was going to say because I've been too busy organising things like your hors d'oeuvres and various other practicalities. So this may be a little bit improvised, but I just wanted to at least say a few things to welcome you to SVPCA, the 66th Symposium of Vertebrate and Palaeontology and Comparative Anatomy. So as you know, we are a community that's been existing for a long period of time. From, I think 1953 was the first one. So here we've got some, I've just got a few slideshows of SVPCA through the years, just to demonstrate to you. I like the fact that this is the only photo from the 70s I could find on here, and you could probably date that within a matter of weeks, given the enormous flares there, which is perfect. But obviously, as I'm sure many of you are aware, but some of you might be new members, we're quite a wide community, and an informal community of academics, researchers, students, museum staff, avocational collectors, and interested members of the public. We're not a society, we are just a loose assembly of people that moves on from year to year. So I'm very happy to welcome you here. I put this slide up here. This is just the SVPCAs of the last 15 years. If your institution isn't on this list, I'll be coming for you and applying some thumbscrews on there. Have a think. Can you see your institution on that list? No, you're getting sweaty there looking around. Some people are looking distinctly nervous. I'll be coming to find you. So one of the things that's changed recently over SVPCA is because we are a fairly informal bunch of people, there's been very little in the sense of continuity. So one of the things that's changed over the last few years is we've now established an SVPCA steering committee. Once again, a fairly informal bunch of people, just to sort of maintain some level of continuity, made up of previous and past and future organisers and representatives from the various different communities, different academic career stages, students and museum staff and others to represent the broad community of what we're dealing with. Some people are due to rotate off this, so we'll be sending out an email at some point soon to all current and previous delegates of SVPCA to ask if there's any nominees for people that want to be appointed to this, and there may be a vote if there's more than one person that wants to be in some of the positions. I can't remember which positions in particular are open, but we can talk about that at a later point. It's not particularly time-consuming job. You don't have to do an awful lot. It just takes someone to take a little bit of effort, just to put a little bit of effort, so it's more of a representative community. That's the point, but including representation. So that's the reason I'm on that list is because I'm representing the people for this hosting committee. But it's not just me that's been doing this. This is a whole battery of people. These are the people you can be bothering to ask questions of over the next few days. The reason that this is the universities, plural of Manchester, or Greater Manchester, it should be more specifically, is because it's not just the University of Manchester, it's also Robin Beck from Salford and Charlotte Brassey from MMU, who unfortunately couldn't be here. She's on field work in Jordan at the moment. And here are some of the other people from the University of Manchester that have been helping out. Each one of them should have a badge on saying, ask me for help, and you can ask them for help. So these people have all been doing a lot of hard work to help support this meeting over the last few days. We are all members of ICAL, the Interdisciplinary Centre for Ancient Life, which is an assemblage of, I shouldn't use that word, that's in a paleontological community, we're not an assemblage. We're a community of people coming under the umbrella of a centre, of a wide, we have about at least 10 or 12 PIs across archaeological science, paleobiology, evolutionary biology, and we a broad church where we're trying to interest questions relating to ancient life. But we are not just an isolated community. There's also a long history of paleontology at the University of Manchester, from William Crawford Williamson, one of the people hanging around with Darwin at the time. Again, keeping up with the sort of Victorian science way of looking at geology and zoology in the round altogether. Mary Stopes, a paleobotanist at the University of Manchester, but generally famous for much more of her books on reproductive health and marriage sex, which was an absolute page-turner at the time, and but also a eugenicist. We don't talk about that anymore. But General Kick-Ass, a female scientist, and Boyd Dawkins, who was collecting lots of things to do with more recent history and archaeology, and Derek Yelden, a member of our own community of SVPCA and frequent visitor who was interested in conservation biology, comparative anatomy, and some paleontology. So, this year's program, this is going to take far less time than I thought it would be, so we can move straight on to the business. So this is just to give you a bit of a guide about what's happening. So we've already had the SVPCA meeting this morning and the Bayesian workshop. So we've lots of people are now up to speed with how to do very fancy MCMC chains and all sorts of things. You can talk to them about that. This afternoon, we have the special symposium of advances in the vertebrate tree of life. So we have 6 invited speakers from a range of different clays to talk about some of the things that are coming up with their half-hour presentations. This evening, we're going to the museum, which is only about 4 doors down, for a wine reception where some food will be available as well in the fossil galleries. So I'm looking forward to seeing you all there for that. That is included in everyone's eligible? Everyone's invited. You didn't have to sign up for that event. Anyone that's registered is welcome to come along. Tomorrow, we're having SVPCA proper with 15-minute sessions in this room. And registration desk and tea breaks. Tea breaks will be out in the registration desk out there. Lunch breaks, you're fending for yourself. We haven't provided lunch for you, but there's no shortage of options outside on Oxford Road. You can find all this information in your little guidebook to give you. Everyone should have picked up one of these as they came in. Yes? Okay, lovely. And then that afternoon, we're having the dedicated poster session. So poster's actually been a very difficult thing. There's not enough room in the foyer out there to accommodate all the posters that we want to. So instead, we're having a dedicated poster session so that everyone can dedicate the possible, the appropriate attention to those posters. They will be taking place in the Williamson building, which is where the School of Earth and Environmental Sciences is. If you go in there, in this building over here, and then turn right, you'll find all the business over there. We're having food and drink, potentially. I should have to ask Joe whether the final bits of food have arrived for that. So that will be an event, and we're going to transition straight in from that, also in the Williamson, to the auction. So under previous years, the auction has often been held in the city somewhere in a bar, but I think we've just tried to keep it simple this time, so you can move straight from the post session, bring your beer next door into the lecture theatre. Don't trust the lecture theatre, because food and drink aren't allowed in there, but I'm going to allow you guys, and if I'm going to be in big trouble. But anyway, it's going to happen. Ask for permission after the fact is the easy way to go. So we're going to have the auction after that, and then you're free for your own devices. The next day, more talks, and then a gap, and then the conference dinner at the Yangsing Chinese restaurant in Chinatown in the centre of Manchester. That's now full, so if you haven't already signed up, I'm afraid we won't be able to accommodate you at this late stage. And then on Saturday, John Nuds is taking people out to Derbyshire for looking at some caverns and the collections at the Buxton Museum. John, any final notes about that, or is everything? I can't see John anywhere, is he? Yeah?
There are still places available.
Still places available.
If anyone would like to sign up.
Yep. So either talk to John or mention it at the registration desk, and we should be able to sort that out with some extra cash, and then we can use that appropriately for whatever nefarious purposes we design. Right, okay, so that's this year's programme. A couple of notes. Palaeocast, courtesy of Dave Marshall and some of his team, are here streaming these events and recording these events, so they'll be available on YouTube. Every presenter, I think, has been asked if you are comfortable or not comfortable with the contents of your talk being shared online, so hopefully that should be recognised, and if you are particularly adamant about it, make sure you double check with Dave. But also, please, we do encourage sharing of the things that you see, taking photographs on social media. So an important part of our community is that we share the findings that we have. But there are many important reasons why people may have some aspects of their talk which they don't want to share. So please do not photograph any presentations where someone has stipulated with this icon at the beginning or share it on social media. So just be aware of that. So we very much do encourage sharing and photographing of what you're seeing and talking about. But please do keep an eye on people that have asked not to, and respect that. Otherwise, we'll have a big difficulty for the future with this. This also is part of our code of conduct. So one of the recent innovations for the SVPCA is we now have a code of conduct, which is inside here, which is talking about how everyone has the ability to be a delegate with dignity and without any kind of harassment. So please have a read of that and know that we're all part of a friendly community that are out here to look after each other. Also, before we finish, 2 words for our sponsors this year, the Palaeontographical Society, publisher of high-quality monographs of interesting taxonomic work. They are ready to receive all your interesting high-quality monographs that you want to have a look at. And Plus One, open peer-reviewed access, which I'm sure many of us are familiar with. They've given us some cash to help support our reception and the student prizes, which will be £100 cash for the best student presentation and the best poster presentation. So the winners of which will be announced on Friday night at the dinner. So there were just a few other minor points to remind. Let's have a look. I made myself a few, yeah, fire exits. There's obviously these two, but there's one behind you as well if you need it, and that's also a fewer steps out of that access. Wi-Fi, hopefully all of you have accessed the Wi-Fi through EduRoam. Anyone that hasn't had any success with EduRoam, we have some Wi-Fi accounts. If you ask the registration desk, our young student helpers will be able to provide you with a username. The auction is in the lecture theatre in the Earth Sciences department. Unfortunately, I didn't realize this, but the capacity isn't big enough to accommodate everybody. So if you, lots of people have emailed me already asking if they can have an auction space. If you would still like to, there's still time to try and bag yourself a space at the auction by asking the registration desk. But I don't anticipate there being a massive problem. And the poster session, yeah. Please do, if you are bringing a poster, please make sure you put that up either this afternoon or tomorrow morning, better still. You've had a dedicated poster assigned to you in the Williamson building, and our undergraduate volunteers wearing these very lovely purple t-shirts will be around to help you out if you want to install those. Okay, so without any further ado, I better pass on to our first speaker of the symposium session. And if you can just talk amongst yourselves whilst we get Mike set up.